Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into a phrase that, it's gone so far beyond the book it came from. It's just part of our global language for total control.
Big Brother is watching you.
Exactly. And that simple, frankly terrifying idea is our way into this deep dive on George Orwell's masterpiece, 1984.
Right. So we've gone through all the sources you've provided, the articles, the research, the analysis, and our mission here is to really break down what makes this novel so powerful. We're not just, recapping the plot.
No, not at all.
We want to get into the mechanics of it. How does Oceania actually work? What does resistance look like psychologically? And maybe most importantly, why is a book from 1949 still the go-to reference when we talk about things like digital surveillance or misinformation today?
Well, I think when you look at the core of it, the real tragedy is Winston Smith's fight. It's this desperate and ultimately doomed struggle against being watched all the time and having the truth manipulated. He's this sort of everyman character who tries to hold on to his own reality. But the whole system, the party, it's designed to make him fail. Not just physically, but spiritually. A total surrender.
And that complete surrender is the warning. The sources are very clear on this. The book is less a prediction of, what the future will look like with specific technology and more of a moral caution.
The psychological one.
The psychological one, exactly. Orwell was drawing directly from what he saw in the real world, the state machinery of Stalinism, the propaganda of Nazism, to show how absolute power works. Its goal isn't just to crush dissent, but to erase the very idea of an individual mind. So to really get Winston's story, you'd have to understand the world that broke him. We're in Oceania, it's ruled by the party, and their ideology is called INGSOC, which is short for English socialism.
And Oceania is one of three massive superstates that are always at war with each other, right? With Eurasia and Eastasia.
Perpetually at war.
Okay, so that perpetual war, that's one of the first things we really need to unpack. The sources all emphasize this point. The war isn't actually meant to be won. It's an internal tool. So what does it do for the party?
Well, it serves two main purposes, and they're both laid out in your material. First, it's about the economy. If you're always producing for a war, and those resources are constantly being destroyed, you never have enough left over to, say, raise the standard of living.
So you keep the population poor and focused on just getting by.
Exactly. They can't organize, they can't think. And second, it maintains a state of fear. Constant fear of the enemy keeps everyone loyal to the leader.
To Big Brother.
To Big Brother. War becomes a tool for creating permanent scarcity and permanent terror.
And Big Brother himself is the anchor for all of that. He's this symbolic leader. His face is on every poster, staring out of every telescreen. But what's so fascinating is the party doesn't just demand you follow him. They demand that you love him.
Unconditionally. It's worship as political loyalty.
And they enforce that loyalty with, probably the most iconic piece of sci-fi tech ever, the telescreen.
Right, and the key thing to remember is that they're two-way. They're not just broadcasting propaganda out.
They're watching you back.
They're watching and listening. Every whisper, every facial twitch, the wrong look on your face could be what they call a thought crime.
And that's so crucial, the idea of thought crime, because the party doesn't really have laws, does it? There's no code you can look up to see what's illegal. There's just the consequence.
There is only the consequence, which is vaporization.
Right.
And vaporization is the ultimate control because it's total erasure. You aren't just killed.
Yeah.
The thought police erase your entire existence. Records rewritten, photos destroyed. You become an unperson you simply never were.
It shows that the party controls the past just as much as the present.
Which leads us right to their most sophisticated tool, controlling language itself. Let's talk about Newspeak.
Okay, so we know it's about reducing the vocabulary, making the dictionary smaller. But what's the psychological goal of that?
It's terrifyingly simple. Your sources define it as engineering a language where rebellion becomes literally unthinkable. You can't form a rebellious thought if you don't have the words for it.
So words like freedom or justice.
They're either eliminated or their meaning is changed to something the party approves of. The nuance is just stripped away.
Which is why someone like Winston's colleague, Sim Soom, is such a problem for them. He's actually helping create the new dictionary, but he's too intelligent. He appreciates language too much.
Way too much. He understands the very nuances the party wants to destroy, and for that, he gets vaporized, not for a crime he committed, but for the crime he was capable of thinking.
And the final piece of this mental prison is doublethink. We all know the slogans, war is peace, freedom is slavery. But what is doublethink, really? It's not just hypocrisy, is it?
No, it's far beyond that. Doublethink is the mental discipline to hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time and to accept both of them. It's a kind of mandated self-deception.
So, like Winston at his job in the Ministry of Truth, he's actively changing historical records.
He knows he's falsifying the past, but at the same time, he has to believe that the new version is the only truth that ever existed.
The party demands you destroy your own memory. I think one of your sources put it perfectly. Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten.
The end result is that objective reality just collapses. There's no evidence, no memory you can trust. There is only the party, and the party's truth can change from one minute to the next.
So now that we have the lay of the land, let's turn to the man trying to fight it, Winston Smith. He's 39, he works for the Outer Party, he's kind of frail. And his first act of rebellion is so small, but so huge.
Buying a diary.
Just buying a diary and writing down with Big Brother. It's his first attempt to create his own personal, verifiable reality.
And from there, he starts looking for hope, for allies. And he lands on this idea that hope lies with the proles.
The 85% of the population that the party basically ignores.
Right. Winston thinks because the party treats them like animals as being beneath concern, they might be the only ones with the potential to overthrow the system.
And it's interesting because in the summaries, it's that very neglect that allows the proles to keep some of their humanity, right?
It does. They have private lives, they have relationships, they sing, they fight. They still have genuine emotions because the party isn't constantly scrutinizing them.
Winston's own rebellion then becomes much more personal. It's fueled by his illegal romance with Julia.
And Julia's such a great contrast to him. She's younger, she's pragmatic. Her rebellion isn't political or intellectual like Winston's. It's about personal pleasure, about carving out a space for herself.
Their whole affair depends on secrecy. They meet out in the country or in that little rented room above Mr. Charrington's antique shop.
That room becomes their sanctuary, a little bubble of the past.
And that glass paperweight he buys from the shop is the perfect symbol for it. It's beautiful, it's useless, it's a relic of a time the party wants to erase.
So fragile.
Exactly. And of course, that fragile sanctuary turns out to be the dead center of the trap. And it's orchestrated by O'Brien.
O'Brien, the inner party member. He seems so intelligent, so powerful, and he approaches Winston pretending to be part of the Brotherhood, the underground resistance.
He plays on Winston's deepest desire for intellectual connection. He gives him Goldstein's book, this supposed manifesto of the resistance.
And Winston just devours it. He finally thinks he understands how and why the party does what it does.
But the betrayal is.
Yeah.
It's absolute. Not only is O'Brien a loyal party member, but Mr. Charrington, the kind old shopkeeper.
He's a member of the thought police. The entire sanctuary, the private space Winston cherished, was a party-controlled stage from the very beginning.
And the final gut punch, which your sources confirm, is that Goldstein's book, The Book of the Resistance.
Was written by the party. O'Brien and his colleagues wrote it. Every single hope Winston had was a string being pulled by the very people he was trying to fight. So once Winston is arrested, he's taken to the Ministry of Love. And this is where the party's true philosophy is laid bare, through torture. And O'Brien is his torturer.
Now, most totalitarian regimes, in history, they claim they're doing it for some greater good, for utopia, or for the nation, or for wealth. O'Brien just rejects all of that.
He does. He strips it all away and reveals the core of Ingsoc, and it's maybe the bleakest idea in all of literature.
I mean, that quote is unforgettable.
The object of persecution is persecution. The object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. There's no other goal. Power is not the means to an end, it is the end.
And the purpose of the torture isn't just to get him to obey, it's conversion. They need him to actually love Big Brother.
That's why they focus so hard on destroying his sense of reality. The most famous example, of course, is making him believe that 2 + 2 = 5.
If they can make him believe that, they've broken his mind.
They've destroyed his ability to trust his own senses. If you can't trust your own mind, the only thing left to trust is the party. You are completely subsumed by the state.
Which brings us to the final stage, to Room 101.
The place where, as O'Brien says, you meet the worst thing in the world, whatever your greatest fear is. And for Winston, it's rats.
And the point of Room 101 isn't to kill him. It's to break him through ultimate betrayal.
It is. Faced with a cage of rats about to eat his face, he screams the line that seals his fate. Do it to Julia, not me, Julia.
He transfers his suffering to the person he loves.
And in that moment, the party wins. They've proven that there is no private loyalty, no love, that they cannot destroy. They have breached the final frontier of the human spirit.
After that, he's released, cured, but he's just a shell.
Completely hollow. He meets Julia one last time. They admit they betrayed each other, but there's no emotion there. The feelings are gone. And the book ends with him at the Chestnut Tree Cafe. He looks at a poster of Big Brother and the final
He
sentence.
loved Big Brother. The conversion is complete, so Winston's defeat is absolute. But the book itself, as a warning, it's just gotten more and more relevant, hasn't it?
It really has. I mean, Orwell was writing about mid-century propaganda, but you look at, for example, the sales surge in 2017 when the term alternative facts entered the political discussion.
Right. The idea of rewriting history in real time is no longer some job in a ministry. It's a digital reality.
Exactly. And the phrase Big Brother now applies to so much more than telescreens. We use it to talk about digital surveillance, algorithms, data collection. The book gives us the vocabulary to talk about the manipulation of reality.
But, and this is maybe the most interesting part of the analysis, despite that absolutely crushing ending, the sources point to a huge critical debate. Is the ending really a total victory for the party?
This is the real deep dive moment, the thing that can change your whole reading of the book. It's the appendix.
The section at the very end, the principles of Newspeak.
Right. It's this dry, academic-sounding essay explaining how Newspeak worked. But the critical thing, the detail that changes everything, is that the entire appendix is written in the past tense.
Meaning it's describing something that was, not something that is.
Precisely. The argument is that Orwell, a master of language, did this intentionally. If Newspeak, the party's most essential tool for thought control, is being discussed in a historical document written in standard English,
It implies that Newspeak eventually failed, and that the party eventually fell.
it suggests that while Winston the man was destroyed, the totalitarian system itself might have been unstable in the long run, that human language, and therefore human thought, is more resilient than the party believed. It's a tiny sliver of hope buried right at the end. Hashtag, outro. So that brings us to the end of our journey through Oceania. I think we've seen the essential role language plays in shaping thought, the constant threat of surveillance, and the absolute destruction of the self when power is the only goal.
Yeah, O'Brien made it clear. The party's aim was to tear human nature to pieces,
Yeah.
and specifically to destroy love and loyalty to do it. And the source material is pretty clear that Winston's individual resistance, his love for Julia, it just wasn't enough. It failed completely against the state's tools of torture.
So if that kind of one-on-one personal resistance is doomed to fail, the question we want to leave you with is this. What specific mechanism, besides individual love or affection, must a free society protect to ensure that organized resistance stays possible? Is hope really with the proles, or is it about protecting the integrity of history, or is it about preserving the complexity of language itself?
Something to think about as you look up from the world of 1984 and back at our own.